Hello. Welcome back to another video. I hope you guys have been doing well. Today we're going to be doing another reaction to Warhammer, another Weshhammer video. It's going to be every wait a minute. You know what? I'll meet you guys over there and we can start the video. I'll also say the name there because I cannot remember. See you guys over there. Alright, it's every Adeptus Mechanicus Forge World explained by Weshhammer. This is gonna be a 32-minute video, so let's get right into it. I'm excited. I want to see what happens here, and let's get right into it.
I'll admit to a little bit of personal bias here, but I believe that the Adeptus Mechanicus is one of the craziest and most interesting factions ever created for a piece of fictional media. They're this perfect blend of techno-mysticism and cult-like adherence to tradition, with even a little bit of tasteful body horror thrown in to keep things interesting. However, despite what a lot of people think, the disciples of the machine god are not this monolithic industry full of binary chanting drones that all act and think exactly alike. Far from it, all of the different Forge worlds which make up all of the Mechanicus' sub-factions are each radically different from each other. Some even have some pretty out there beliefs that skirt the line between what is and what isn't considered tech heresy. In this video, we're going to dive into each of the major Forge worlds, including their combat tactics, dogmatic beliefs, and what makes each and every one of them unique. We're going to talk about a group of tech priests whose Forge world is built around a captured star, and by harnessing its unlimited energy, they're able to create some absolutely insane weapons and armor. A Forge world who's famous for its production of plasma weaponry, but infamous for the sheer brutality their armies unleash against the enemies of the Omnissiah. And we're going to talk about my personal favorite Forge world, one that views the fundamental creed of the machine cult's faith that says that alien technology is an abomination as more of a guideline than a hard set rule. And because of this, they're viewed as heretics by a lot of their allies. We're going to be talking about all that and a whole lot more, as there's a lot to cover in this video. But before we dive headfirst into the grimdark, I want to tell you all about the sponsor of this video, Into the AM. If you've been watching my channel for a while...
Whoa, look at his back wall. It's so cool. Look, oh damn. All those models look awesome, I'm not gonna lie. Do you have any Necron? Oh, that's a Necron tower right here. Anything else? It might be a Catan, maybe. No, I don't think that is. It looks like a ship. What else do we have? Spaceships. It looks like Necron design here. Top left looks like a battle sister. I don't know what faction that is. Yellow. I know it's either the defense breakers or the attackers that break any besiegers, or the defenders. I don't remember. Magnus in demon form? I think that might be. And then we have a Nurgle ass looking thing here. Anyways, let's move on. All right, let's skip the ad real quick. I want to get right into this.
One doesn't need to spend a lot of time looking into the factions of Warhammer 40k to see that if even two different groups share the same overall faction name, it doesn't mean that they're anything alike in terms of tradition, fighting style, ideology, or just about anything else you can think of. All you really need to do is take one look over at the Space Marines and compare and contrast the legally distinct Roman Empire of the Ultramarines to the casual cannibals of the Flesh Terrors, and back again to the based Crusaders of the Black Templars to see some pretty distinct differences, even though they're all technically loyalist Space Marines. The Adeptus Mechanicus is no different,
Yeah, that makes
and
sense.
Traditionally speaking, if we're going to talk in game terms, each of their sub-factions come in the form of completely different worlds.
Alright, Alpha Helm. Welded into a place around 13 dialing head, Alpha Helm links this augmented senses both to his machine brethren and his masters in the priesthood of Mars. Its glowing lenses constantly gather data for the glory of the Adeptus Mechanicus, icon of Adeptus Mechanicus. Stamped onto his chest plate, the Mechanicus cog is both sacred symbol and technological marvel of this to the Skitari. Through its embedded Listen, English is not my first language. All right, sorry. It's like my third. Anyways, cog, cog, cognitator pathways. It regulates the system of 13 Delir's armor. Red robes of Mars, crimson like the dunes of the blessed Mars, the Skatiri's robes were once worn as a means of camouflage and protection from the dust storms, but now serve as an emblem of the unyielding might of Mars and the Adeptus Mechanicus. Cool, alright. Taser Goad. Crackling with a barely contained energies, the Taser Goad is a fearsome piece of Martian technology. Even a single touch from its glowing forked prod is enough to send Oregon crashing to its knees. Blood is spilled to be mistaken for human. The Forge Rose Realm sacred color is part of the uniform. Ancient ties to Mars. Okay, alright, let's continue watching. I always want to see what these
Forge Worlds, to be specific. A planet that has become completely dominated by industry, that toils away endlessly to churn out the massive quantities of weapons, war gear, and ammunition utilized by all of the military forces within the Imperium of Man. Each of the Forge Worlds are separated by thousands of light years, and many of them are beyond ancient, tracing their lineage more than 20,000 years back to the time of the Dark Age of technology. No matter what each of the Forge Worlds choose to specialize in, no matter what the differences are in the dogmatic creeds they choose to follow in adherence to the machine cult, and no matter how they go about bringing death to the enemies of the Omnissiah, each and every one of the trillions of members of the Adeptus Mechanicus and all of the worlds under their control can trace their lineage back to the Red Planet, the original Forge World.
Mars.
So we'll kick off this deep dive of Mechanicus subfactions with the Mother.
That's cool. That's cool that they all pretty much just know. It's like, even though we're this far in the stars, we cannot forget our roots. Mars was the planet that they all originated from, and it's cool. I like it.
Planet Mars. The red planet of Mars is famous for a lot of things, but most importantly, it is the birthplace of the cult Mechanicus and is seen second to only Holy Terra in terms of influence and power within the Imperium. It was the Treaty of Mars, created by the Emperor, that officially created the alliance between the two planets, and nowadays, the twin heads of the Imperial Aquila have come to represent the twin worlds' combined effort to rebuild the galaxy-spanning human empire that was lost during the Age of Strife. Mars enjoys special prominence amongst the Adeptus Mechanicus as the birthplace of their order. It is the original Forge World, the template which all others will be compared against. Such is its prominence that for the last 10,000 years, all tech priests throughout the Imperium have been collectively referred to as the Priesthood of Mars, regardless of their Forge World of origin. The Red Planet enjoys an empire unto itself, with more subservient industrialized worlds and Forge Moons than any of its peers. In fact, all of the other Forge Worlds owe fealty to Mars, hence why you see at least a small amount of red in the uniforms and robes of the tech priests of every other Forge World. The Fabricator General of Mars, its de facto ruler, is vested with divine right over all others. Thus, he and the planet itself are said to speak with the authority of the Machine God. Although all of the Forge Worlds adhere to the dictate of the cult of the Machine God, due to the stellar distances between each of these worlds and the disconnected feudalistic nature of the Imperium, one Forge World's concept of adhering to its edicts may look radically different to the faithful interpretation of another. It's not unusual to see agents of Mars spread throughout the galaxy, ensuring that Mars is always aware of the goings-on within the other organizations within the Imperium. The Red Planet is revered as a font of all technical knowledge, the birthplace of the Mechanicus, and the most holy of worlds. Because of this, billions of pilgrims within the cult will journey to the Red Planet each and every year. With such a rich pedigree behind them, it's no wonder that many tech priests of Mars suffer no affront to the Forge World's majesty, no suggestion that its creations are not the greatest attainable. Even its legions of Skitarii, which are considered tools by the tech priests, are inducted into some of the lesser mysteries of the cult Mechanicus. For if Mars is the most blessed of Forge Worlds, then so too must be their tools. There is no question that Mars is the most important planet when it comes to the entirety of the cult of the Machine God, but the next Forge World that we're going to talk about has access to some technology that Mars can only dream of.
In a lot of different types of
What is
science fiction,
that?
there's a construct known as a Dyson sphere, and if you've never heard of it, it's a hypothetical megastructure that is large enough to surround an entire star, thus capturing its ludicrous amounts of energy. Our own sun, for example, being estimated at giving off the power of 1 trillion nuclear bombs per second. Having that much energy at your disposal is practically unthinkable. It makes the entire combined energy output of our modern world look practically Neolithic in comparison. All that being said, this is exactly what Lucius is.
I was about to say, some maniac out there said, imagine, son, I'ma cage it. I'ma cage that thing. Put it in a cage. It's gonna look pretty. Oh, my window's open. The fuck? I'm about to die. Anyways, besides that little fucking oddity, honestly, I want to see what they make. The fact that they have the power of the sun in the palm of their hand. Yes, I took the Spider-Man quote. I want to see what they did with it.
Also known as the Hollow Forge, it is a Forge World Dyson sphere, a completely hollow artificial planet built around a captured star. Side note, the Adeptus Mechanicus often gets falsely seen as just a bunch of tech shaman that don't really know what they're doing, but constructs like Lucius remind us of how ridiculously intelligent and capable they truly are. The star burning inside of Lucius provides the Forge World with a nearly limitless supply of energy for their manufacturing needs, Lucius pattern weapons and war engines having garnered a reputation for excellence across the Imperium. The masterwork weapons and war gear created in their forges contain the proprietary alloy Lucium, an alloy that is only capable of being forged with the concentrated power of a captured star. This solar-blessed ore is viewed as holy by the tech priests of Lucius, and thus to be clad in armor of its make is to walk into battle as a holy warrior of the machine god, blessed by the will of the Omnissiah to bring
sense.
death to his enemies. From radium carbines to void ship weaponry and heavy armor battle tanks, the stamp of Lucius is a guarantee of quality workmanship and efficiency. As if their stellar reputation wasn't enough, Forge Lucius is also host to the god machines of Legio Astorum Titan Legion, the only Titan Legion that has the ability to teleport directly into battle. They're also unique in having survived against a split.
That's crazy. The fact that you can just teleport giant mechs into battle, that is such a amazing power to have. It is. I can see how that could be like seen as like this planet itself. I wonder if they have more, but since I only know this one, if this is like one of their, like maybe they have 5 out there, but if this is the only one, this place needs to be like guarded hella, because it's very important. I can see like most of their goods are the best goods being made from here.
Splinter of High Fleet Leviathan through attrition. The unique nature of fighting on a planetary surface devoid of strategic resources meant that through the use of machine servitors and the Legio Cybernetica, wave after wave of the invasion fleet could be defeated while giving up very little biomass in return. As such, the High Fleet was forced to cannibalize itself until it was eventually defeated. The weapons and war gear that Lucius is capable of producing is absolutely astonishing and does make them considerably powerful. However, the next Forge World that we're going to talk about doesn't derive their strength from simply having access to better equipment than everyone else. Their warriors draw strength from seemingly limitless experience, as the Forge World has been engulfed in never-ending war for thousands of years. Forge World Agripinaa once toiled endlessly to supply the Fortress World of Cadia with the material and munitions they needed to fight back against the forces of chaos. They became their main supplier due to their location in close proximity to the Eye of Terror. Now, even before Cadia fell, Agripinaa was under constant attack by looters and raiders looking to steal its secrets, and they found themselves in a state of seemingly endless conflict. Now, with their closest ally Cadia destroyed, direct attacks on the Forge World itself have increased tenfold. More than any other Forge World, Agripinaa has existed in a state of constant battle. Thus, having been tempered by the fires of war, they stand as an immovable bastion of the Omnissiah's will. Their troops are utterly fearless, even when faced with horrific close assaults and overwhelming odds, maintaining a near constant cast iron composure in the face of their enemy. Agripinaa was always seen as a jewel too tempting to be ignored by the foul forces of chaos. As such, the Forge World was frequently embattled by warpsmiths, obliterator cults, and other worshippers of the Dark Mechanicum. Even loathsome enemies such as the traitor Titan legions would end up attacking Agripinaa, all of which would end up being repelled.
Really?
Because this Forge World in particular has had to endure so many attacks and so much destruction at the hands of mankind's most hated enemies, their warriors will oftentimes cast aside even sacred logic in order to vent their hatred of the foe, utilizing a hodgepodge of tactics learned from their allies and enemies alike. Now, since the destruction of Cadia and the opening of the Great Rift, the stoic defenders of Agripinaa have refined their protocols. Their tech priests have cogitated on complex strategies of counter-siege warfare, employing tactics that would seem reckless to those from different Forge Worlds. They will often employ many forward battle elements at once to strike together and overwhelm the enemy, decimating the invaders so thoroughly that if the survivors do manage to break through their primary defenses, they will be met by the Forge World's legions of stationary gun lines, wherein the survivors will be eviscerated by a thunderous onslaught of disciplined volley fire. Because of a steady stream of refugees that constantly are seeking shelter behind the well-fortified walls of Agripinaa, heavy losses sustained in the planet's defense can be replenished with a continued supply of raw organics fit for augmentation. Agripinaa opens its gates to any willing and able to serve the Omnissiah. If Agripinaa is characterized by their ability to set aside sacred dogma in order to ensure victory, then the next Forge World we're going to talk about is basically their exact opposite.
Wait, I just gotta say, that's cool. Imagine, so because of its like proximity, since it's always been surrounded by war, just like the Cadians, they have been forged to be the toughest there is. And the fact that you're just like, hey, you want to fight and you want protection? You come here. We'll give you the robot parts. You know, you lost your arm. You want to join us in our battle, in our war, and we'll replace that arm right for you. You just have to work for us. All right, have a seat. We have an apartment ready waiting for you, and your surgery is already going to be underway. Anyways, let's keep going.
Even more so than other members of the cult Mechanicus, the forces of Graia are said to be ruthlessly logical and will coldly pursue their goals no matter the cost in resources or lives. They believe that their victory is an irrefutable certainty subject only to the wisdom of the machine god. Those that serve this Forge World have been hardwired into a state of pure logic. So strong is the bulwark of their reason that the strange and esoteric weapons and attacks utilized by their enemies break against their indomitable rationality like the tides against a cliff. To be a defender of Graia is to abandon individuality and your own selfish pursuits. It is to give yourself over entirely to a core of logic. In this sense, it is said that her troops follow orders from their commanding tech priests at an instinctual and almost automatic level. This may play a role in the reason why Graia's defenders are said to be so indomitable and stubborn. The forces of their forges have shown themselves to possess a discipline of almost inhuman fearlessness, their stubbornness being on such a level that it's been able to shield them from the attention of enemy psychers. Now, such determination is seen as a double-edged sword by their allies. Now, on one hand, their single-minded refusal to yield no matter the odds has led to many grueling victories that were thought to be impossible. Well, on the other hand,
A lot of losses.
their dogmatic adherence to never surrendering ground has also led to many losses that could have been prevented, or at the very least mitigated if they employed a more flexible battle style. From Graia's perspective, however, losses such as these are to be analyzed and processed so that future battles will play out within the results of their holy cogitators. Forge World Graia and the Graian Crown, which share its name, are not the same thing, but they're so vital to each other that it's hard to imagine one without the other. The Graian Crown is a man-made ring of space stations that orbit Graia, similar to what Mars has. However, the Graian Crown is said to have been constructed to be geometrically perfect. Perhaps that's part of the secret to the technology, which makes it far more than a shipyard and planetary defense system. The command structure of the Forge is always performing cogitation of the highest priority to weigh any newly discovered world's resources against the risk to the Crown. If it's deemed a necessary risk, the Graian Crown will translate through the warp and swiftly extract a planet's valuable resources before returning to Graia. Before such a
Oh.
risky journey gets underway, the Forge World below will stock the Crown's fabrication temples full of ammunition and make sure that the holding decks are stocked with volunteers. Moving a structure so monumentally large through the warp is rife with risk, and on multiple occasions it has attracted undesired attention from both warp beasts and Necrons. Battles have been waged across its vast and symmetrical tunnels in order to prevent the Crown from falling into hostile hands. But when the Crown returns to Graia, it is bearing a world's worth of valuable resources. When it comes to the cult of the Adeptus Mechanicus, there are certain fundamental pillars that are not to be questioned. One of their major beliefs is that the machine god granted his blessings only to humanity, and any machine made by an alien is by definition an abomination. However, a major portion of the tech priests on the next Forge World we're going to talk about don't exactly agree with this.
Yeah.
Lost to the vast data
imagine.
stacks and cogitators of Forge World Stygies VIII, a moon orbiting a shadowy gas giant is perhaps the most secretive and some would dare say most shameful of all of the branches of the machine cult. During the Horus Heresy, the Forge World of Stygies VIII was almost completely wiped out by the forces of the War Master. In their darkest hour, however, their salvation would come from the most unlikely of sources, an intervention by one of the Imperium's oldest enemies, the Eldari. Why the Eldar chose to aid this world still remains a mystery, though most likely the reason their Wraith Titans were deployed was to deny the War Master such a powerful center of industry in a strategic location near the Eye of Terror. If any records exist from this time, they have all been buried away. Now, it is said that even the Fabricator General of Stygies VIII doesn't know the full truth of the Eldari intervention. However, this pivotal event would fundamentally change the trajectory of the Forge World, and gave rise to a cult of radicals obsessed with Xenos technology, known as the Xenorites. Now, the Martian priesthood would likely frown into inquiries on such a heretical cult, but despite the accusations of heresy by their peers, the Xenorites are all too happy to lurk underground, quietly digging into all of the Xenos tech that they can get their mechadendrites on. Everything from the gravitic tech of the Tau to the shadow fields of the Dark Eldar. The technology that gets them the most excited being anything that would aid in maintaining the secrecy of their work. Even though this cult only makes up a small portion of the sum total of tech priests that operate on Stygies VIII, even many of its more orthodox tech priests have a talent for obfuscation, often making use of shrouding technology and secretive binaric subcodes. When their armies march to war, they conceal their movements behind massive stealth screen projectors and use a system of apparatuses designed to play haywire with enemy Auspex equipment. This has led the Forge World to having a mysterious reputation within the other forges of the Adeptus Mechanicus. In recent times, the Xenorites have found a new obsession in Noctilith, often referred to as its more common name Blackstone, the same material that the Blackstone fortresses and the Cadian pylons were made of. Now, through their research, they have found that the material can be used as a conduit for warp energies, or if negatively charged, become anathema to it. The Xenorites believe that Noctilith is a material that was first employed by the galaxy-spanning empire of the Necrons, and to their continuing frustration, as more and more Necrons begin to wake up, it becomes harder and harder for them to retrieve samples for further study. The stealthy and secretive tactics of Stygies VIII may work for them, but the next Forge World we're going to talk about prefers to...
That's crazy. I have to say, that one's definitely the most interesting one for me. Just because in a universe where there's no room for compassion really or understanding of other races, the fact that this one got aided by Adari, right? And then they turned heretic, technically not heretic. I mean, I guess it would be heretic, right? Or Xeno loving, whatever. To Xeno technology, I feel like, I mean, part of me is like, yeah, don't break the code, but then part of me is like, you know, this is an ongoing war. Get whatever you can. Just get whatever you can and win. It doesn't matter what you do, just fucking win. Well, you know, actually, I won't say that. You know, keep your humanity, I guess, but like, I mean, that makes no sense for them. I was thinking about humans, but you know what I mean. You know, because like, you won't say do anything, because if you do anything, you turn to chaos, and then, you know, you're no longer human. But I mean, technically they're considered human, more machine than human speaking here, but you know, you know what I mean. Like, where is the line from where you turned yourself? I mean, I guess there is no real line here. What am I thinking? What am I talking about? This is Warhammer. There is no line. The line is where it is convenient. Really, honestly speaking, from what I've seen. Yeah, that's it. Because like anything else would just be an extremism of the other, like the other sides. Either you oppose everything completely, or you're for everything completely, or for one side completely, or the other side. There's no middle. Because if you're in the middle, you're a risk to both. Except if you're Adeptus Mechanicus, because you make all the guns, so you get the pass.
To deal with their enemies through unrelenting brutality. The Forge world of Ryza's past and present are linked primarily with plasma and destruction. Now, Ryza is the renowned birthplace of many of the plasma-based weaponry that the Mechanicum and Imperium use to this very day. When the forces of Ryza march to war, they do so utilizing advanced technologies that are lost to many of the other Forge worlds. Her tech priests do not hesitate to unleash every single arcane device and esoteric relic at their disposal upon their enemies, viewing the wanton obliteration of their foes as nothing less than profoundly spiritual. Their forces are noted for utilizing some incredibly aggressive combat doctrines and zealous training protocols, which would explain not only their martial prowess of their troops, but their apparent eagerness to shed blood, their fury being likened to holy fervor. Most peculiar of all is the fact that Ryza is one of the few Forge worlds that actively encourages innovation. Most of their top tech priests commonly utilize their own experimental weapons and use the battlefield to test their effects. Although, admittedly, most of their more bizarre creations are kept tight under lock and key. Although Ryza is a Forge world with a rich techno heritage, most of their history sadly lies in ruins. You see, at the height of Ryza's power during the Great Crusade, it was said to be second only to Mars in terms of technology, manufacturing ability, and strength of arms.
Second?
Because they were so powerful and hoarded a considerable amount of technological secrets based around plasma technology, there was a considerable amount of tension between them and the Red Planet. Even though they were allies, this uneasiness between the Forge worlds led Ryza to strengthening their defenses and preparing for inevitable conflict. Such a conflict would in fact come to fruition, but from the Dark Mechanicum that rebelled during the Horus Heresy, leading to a war in which Ryza ended up coming out victorious, but 4/5 of the planet's infrastructure was destroyed. A grievous wound that they were never able to fully recover from.
That's hella dark. Or not dark. That's hella loss. That's a lot of loss. Dark Mechanicus. Huh. I don't remember hearing about those before. That's new to me. I never knew. I mean, it's obvious, I guess, since they're so intertwined, the Mechanicus and, you know, humanity. Well, I mean, I think they are technically humans, but you know what I mean. The Hera and the Mechanicus are so intertwined that I guess it makes sense that some of them would turn to the the chaos side. There you go. Chaos side. That's what I meant to say. Chaos side. I was just like, not the dark side. But you know what I mean. I guess it's not surprising, but I don't think I've ever heard of what exactly they were involved in, which I'm pretty sure I will hear about later. Which, we'll see.
In more modern times, Ryza found herself in the direct path of not one, but 2 orc wars, each of which brought enough orcs to overrun entire Imperial systems, of which several were consumed as the war converged on Ryza. But the Forge did not succumb, even as the endless tides of greenskin invaders smashed through the orbital defenses and made planetfall. Ryza remained defiant. Now, many of the world's tech priests saw this as an opportunity unlikely to come again in many lifetimes. A feedback of battle data could be retrieved with near instant results. Designs that had originally been thought to be too unstable or too unwieldy to be tested properly had the front lines brought to them. And with the loss of countless irreplaceable artifacts hanging in the balance, as well as hundreds already smashed apart by the uncaring horde, the Fabricator General granted permission to deploy any means of defense in order to stay the advance of the orcs. With this edict in place, data from defeat could be seen as just as valuable as data due to victory. It truly is a testament to the defenders of Ryza, Mechanicum, and Imperial that the Forge maintains its commitment to other war zones, as well as the defense.
What a bunch of nerds. What a bunch of nerds. Here comes the orcs with their wa. And this guy said, I could get data out of that. I could get data. Get Wally in here. I give him a shotgun and send him out. I need my data. I'm sorry. Let's go on. Let's go on.
Of the Forge world itself. Now, it's true that all of the Forge worlds are technically ruled over by Mars, and they all have to pay fealty to the Red Planet. However, there are some, like the next one we're going to talk about, that would much prefer to cast off the shackles of Martian influence. Located deep within the Ultima Segmentum, Forge World Metalica, through endless toil, sees to it that the war machines of the Segmentum continue to smite the foes of the Omnissiah and the Imperium of Man. In their quest for ideal mechanical purity, all native biological life has been stripped from the planet as mechanical industry slowly consumed all of the Forge world, coating its rock and soil in adamantine, iron, and steel. It became a world of endless industry, a world whose skies were choked by mile-thick clouds of smog and pollutant, where vast, interconnected clusters of forge shrines and industrial centers were separated only by landscapes of industrial waste. It is only through their relentless devotion to optimization over everything else that the planet is able to maintain its ludicrous production capacity. The forges of Metalica are devoted to meeting their production quotas, for industry itself is proof of their worship to the machine god. The sound of their devotion is heard with every crack of arcing welders and every hammer blow of sharpened metal. It is said that every weapon produced upon the planet echoes the prayers of the faithful servants of the Omnissiah, with each round deployed upon the enemy. It's true that every Forge world owes allegiance to Holy Mars and thus incorporates some amount of red into their clothing.
Yeah.
However, Metalica's colors are mostly pure white, which represents the purity of the machine, with only the slightest amounts of red in respect to Mars. Metalica stands proudly on its own, and their priesthood has long resisted the attempts of the Martians to impose remote rule. This independence has not led to warm relations, and maintaining such independence only grows harder as the battlefronts grow broader and more numerous. Each and every one of the Forge worlds have their own speciality when it comes to what weapons, war gear, or machines they're capable of producing. Ryza is all about plasma, while Agripinaa was all about munitions. They may make different things, but they're all kind of in the same ballpark. However, the next Forge world we're going to talk about specializes in something particularly strange: weapons and war gear designed to kill demons.
Ooh.
Even though it was once a moon of Holy Mars.
Now we have the Catholics. I don't know. I was gonna say the Holy Men or something like that, but I was like, eh. And I was gonna say, then I thought about the Inquisitors, but I was like, that name's already taken, you know? That name is taken by the Inquisition. They're the Inquisitors. These guys are more like the nerds, the demon hunters, what's the word? Not goosebumps. I was gonna call them the Ghostbusters. There you go. Sorry, Ghostbusters. They're the Ghostbusters, okay? Other ones are the Holy Men. These are the Ghostbusters. All right, I'm done. I'm done. Let's go.
Deimos no longer rests within the orbit of the Red Planet. Instead, Malcador the Sigillite, right hand of the Emperor, had it moved during the Horus Heresy through mystical and powerful technologies unknown to anyone in the 42nd millennium. Back then, Deimos was already a thriving Forge world in its own right, and as such, would be perfectly suited to provide weapons and armor to the secretive Grey Knight project. Nowadays, the moon functions as a Forge world entirely dedicated to the production of weapons and war gear for the Grey Knights, and orbits the moon of Titan, the adopted homeworld of the aforementioned chapter of Space Marines.
That makes so much sense.
Not only is this forge fully capable of producing all standard issue Astartes war gear, available to every other chapter, but additionally, all of the specialist demon hunting gear specific to the Grey Knights, designed to give them the edge against warp-based enemies. All of the weapons and war gear they produce being blessed by the will of the Omnissiah and inscribed with a bevy of warding runes designed to stay the corrupting influence of chaos. To say that both the Forge World of Deimos and the Grey Knights chapter are both ludicrously secretive is a massive understatement. They don't even share their secrets with each other, even though their destinies are so tightly intertwined. For example, transactions between the two forces are handled by specially constructed servitors capable of only minimal functionality, which oversee the transference of material between the Forge World and Titan. These unfortunate constructs are mind-wiped and their circuitry is blanked after the completion of each transaction. Thus, it is ensured that the Adeptus Mechanicus remains unaware of the secrets of the Grey Knights, but more importantly to the Mechanicus, the Grey Knights are unaware of their secrets or how their technologies are created. The secrets contained within the Small Moon's forges are said to be under constant guard by several macroclads of Skitarii warriors, each having received triple blessings from the Omnissiah to ascertain their purity, as well as a complement of 3 knight households at all times. Despite the secretive and seemingly untrustworthy nature of the alliance between the Grey Knights and Deimos, they both frequently will answer the call for aid in the other faction's times of need. Whenever a Forge World discovers a new STC or piece of lost archaeotech.
Let me pause it, because I don't want to talk over it. But considering how at odds everybody is, you know, it's good to know they got your back. Even if it comes to it, they got each other's backs.
They're expected to share those secrets with Mars. However, sometimes, like with the Forge World we're about to talk about, they're located incredibly far away from the Red Planet and choose to keep some of those secrets for themselves. And this is something that the Mother Planet is not a fan of. Because of its location far away from the cradle of humanity, out in the furthest reaches of the Eastern Fringe, Triplex Phall is seen as something of an isolationist Forge World. It's been able to maintain a higher than standard level of autonomy and doesn't suffer as much direct oversight from Mars. They're known to be incredibly secretive and due to their exploratory efforts have uncovered many lost human worlds, including several Imperial Night worlds. They've been able to uncover a bevy of secrets, STCs, and lost tech, much of which is said to predate even the Dark Age of technology. Much to the annoyance of Mars, most of these secrets they keep for themselves. And not to be outdone, in recent times, Mars has sent many of its legions to accompany the isolationist Forge World's exploratory efforts, so they can't ferret away all of their good technology for themselves. Although Triplex Phall would never admit it, this slight to their independence has actually worked out quite well for them. While being situated on the fringe offers rich rewards, it's also fraught with the dangers of the wild. If it hadn't been for the Martian legions that were sent to oversee their exploratory fleets, the fleet and perhaps even the Forge World itself could have been overwhelmed by repeated demonic incursions, since the occurrence of the Cicatrix Maledictum placed the Forge World on the edge of the Great Rift. Even though Mars is seen as the original template that all of the Forge Worlds are based off of, most of them like to carve out their own identity. However, that couldn't be further from the truth with the next Forge World we're going to talk about. The Forge World known as Voss Prime is located within the Segmentum Solar, and due to its close proximity to our own star system, it was reunited with the Red Planet even before the beginning of the Great Crusade. More so than any other Forge World, Voss Prime is unquestionably loyal to Mars and its priesthood, and has even gone as far as modeling itself after the Red Planet. Their production rate of weaponry is absolutely ridiculous, and it is said that their output is second only to Mars itself. This is due to the fact that the Forge exists right next to a massive asteroid belt, known as the Mordian Belt. These asteroids provide the Forge with two primary advantages. First, they're absolutely chock full of raw resources for them to utilize. And second, whenever they completely hollow one of them out and drain it of all of its resources, they turn around and make it into a floating weapon station. Now, after having done this for thousands of years, the Forge has become ludicrously well defended. That being said, as the eons have passed by, the richest ore has been stripped clean. With these facts in mind, the Fabricator General of Voss Prime is eager to lend support to Guilliman's Indomitus Crusade in order to secure new fertile resources for their ever-hungry forges. Although the nature of just how important each of the Forge Worlds are to the Imperium generally means that they're incredibly well defended, this doesn't mean that they're immune to suffering great tragedy. And the next Forge World that we're going to talk about stands as a great example of just how dangerous and unforgiving the galaxy of the grimdark future truly is. The priesthood of Gryphonne IV is a cult without a Forge World, and their tragic downfall stands as a cautionary tale against the dangers of arrogance and prideful last stands. A warning that in the grim darkness of the far future, all too often goes unheeded. Gryphonne IV was a Forge World of renown with a record of implacable martial conquest, including bearing the horrors of the Age of Strife alone. With the god engines of Legio Gryphonicus as their allies, the Forge World ruled over an entire system of 8 planets, using their domain to draw in resources and continue the production of the mightiest of war machines. It was believed that Gryphonne IV was impregnable, Sadly, no one could have predicted the
Well.
devastation that would be wrought by the seeking tendrils of High Fleet Leviathan. It was believed that the High Fleet's advance could be slowed through exterminatus, so it was ordered that Gryphonne IV would be evacuated. The thought of abandoning their sacred forges and destroying their world from orbit just to clear a path to starve the High Fleet was deemed untenable. As such, the Fabricator General and the Tech Priests of this world shore up their defenses and, with their Titanic allies, defiantly stood in the path of the approaching High Fleet. So sure were they in their victory that it was only at the last moments, as the Titans were overrun by the swarm and the temple guns were silenced, that any of the Tech Priesthood attempted to escape the death of their worlds. Much was lost, but with many data slates of precious secrets from a forgotten age in hand, the survivors of the Lost Forge seek a new world. But what do you think of all this? Which one of these is your favorite Forge world and why? I know for me personally, I've always said that Stygies VIII is my favorite. I've got a soft spot for the Xenos tech-loving heretics.
Yeah.
I just
Okay,
can't
I
help.
wasn't sure if it was gonna be I don't know if he was I don't know their name, but now that you said it, yeah, that one's definitely my favorite one. Definitely my favorite one still. I like the fact they're like, what if I use software update myself a little bit, you know, get a little bit of the new I'll add an iOS update to my Android phone real quick.
Myself, but in doing research for this video, I gotta be honest, Agripinaa is definitely creeping up the list for me. I know if there was one thing that I would change about the Adeptus Mechanicus' lore would be that each one of them had a slightly more unique color scheme, because when I was trying to find artwork for this video, my god, it's a lot of Mars. It's just 9,000 pictures of tech priests from Mars. 10 billion different slight variations of red. What are some other topics about Warhammer 40k that you'd love to hear me cover? We just got done with spooky season and I put out a couple of spooky videos and I've got a couple of more planned, but I'm trying to get back into the swing of things with more generalized lore videos.
Alright, that has been my reaction to every Adeptus Forge world by Warhammer, which has been obviously a very good watch. I enjoyed it very much. Xenos technology is, I think it's very much needed to, you know, overcome this these tribulations that we are fighting in this war. Besides that, I'd say my other favorite one would be the one that's working with the Grey Knights. The Grey Knights would be my second favorite one of the Forge worlds. I don't know their names because I do not have a good memory like that. That's why I try to write everything down. That's why I write everything down. My memory is pretty selective for certain things, unfortunately for me. Anyways, I definitely like them both most. I like the Forge World planets. I very much enjoy how different they are, and I enjoy how awesome that one that was encasing a star is like, damn, they got a whole ass star in there. Their weapons are probably like second to none, since it's got like the energy source to like back it up properly. And then what was that one planet that was just under constant siege, so their warriors are like some of the best? That's also really good. That's awesome. I gotta say, I enjoyed this very much. It's gotta see that they're also like, while they technically all generally believe in the Omnissiah, their beliefs of how to uphold their faith are slightly a little bit different on each one. And how Mars is seen as the top. And if you don't follow Mars, you're a heretic to them and such. But it seems to be somewhat, because of the distance, they seem to be somewhat like, hey, don't do like, hey, he's using Xeno technology. No, don't do that. That's bad. No, oh, you gave me a ray gun? Oh, wait a minute. You know, no. Like, no, kill the man. Is that a ray gun? Oh, and it works with... No, stop him. He's doing a bad. No, don't do that. Somebody, stop him. You know? It's like, wait a minute. This is working too well. Maybe I'll let it slide. Maybe a little slide. I'll let it slide just a little bit. Just a little bit, you know? Anyways, that has been my reaction to every Adeptus Mechanical Forge world. I'm pretty sure I already said this earlier. I'm just rephrasing. But hope you guys enjoyed it. I very much did. Hope you guys got your snacks. Hope you guys hydrated. And that's going to be all for me. See you guys.